friends, Malli here from Malli Realty's, here to showcase this gorgeous home here in Detroit, Michigan. This 900 square foot, 1 bed, 1 bath is located in one of Detroit's most beautiful neighborhoods. Not only will this house dazzle you away with its many charms, it comes with a fully furnished guest room tucked away in a hidden passage in the basement. Perfect for those pesky in-laws, am I right? Just south and 110 feet below the guest room is a fully functional dungeon with enough space for the kids and God knows who else to run around and play. Now don't you walk, don't you crawl, but you run to your nearest phone and give our offices a call and we'll schedule you with a tour of this beautiful property today. And don't bother asking if anything untoward happened in this house, because I ain't telling. Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be discussing the 2022 film Barbarian as suggested by these lovely subscribers here. And I hope you enjoyed these sunglasses for the 5 seconds that I have them on, because I can't see shit and I need to put on my government glasses. God, I can hear again. Starting off, we meet our main character, Tess. And when we meet Tess, she's just arrived at an Airbnb late at night. And poor baby has dyscalculia. She reads the code for the lockbox to get the key all wrong. So poor thing types in the wrong code. She refers back to the email, types in the correct code, and sees that there's no key in the lockbox. And there's somebody by the name of Marcus that keeps calling her phone. She just keeps declining his calls. And I'm like, girl, if you don't block his ass, what are we doing? But nonetheless, Tess calls Greater Wayne Property Management, which is safe to say that is the company that rented the house out, and there's no answer. She's looking around, it's dark as fuck, you can't see much, and it's not giving good vibes. So with no other choice, Tess goes back to her car, only to see a light in the house come on. She goes back to the house and a man by the name of Keith answers the door. And they quickly find out that the house has been double booked. Tess booked through Airbnb and Keith booked through HomeAway. Keith invites Tess in to figure out what went wrong with their reservations, which honestly I feel like that's interesting for Keith to have done. I don't know if it's just me as a woman or just me as an antisocial person in general, but anytime I have an unannounced guest knocking at my door, I'm hiding. I'm hiding by a window, I'm peeking through, I'm seeing what's going on out there, but I'm definitely not fucking answering. Tess is inside the house and she's asking Keith if she could see his reservation, which I do think is fair because Keith got to look at Tess's reservation before she even got inside the house. And for some reason, Keith has like the teensiest bit of attitude. And he's like, why? Because you think I'm just a crazy man who broke in to sleep here? And I would have been like, no, I didn't think that until you said that now. But it's like, damn, maybe you got the dates wrong on your reservation. But Keith agrees to show Tess the reservation. He looks for his phone while Tess goes to use the restroom. And if there was any time for Tess to be concerned about Keith's character, it is now in this restroom when he sees he has his electric toothbrush charging on the bathroom floor. I seen that. I said, girl, you should probably get the fuck out of there. So Tess is done using the restroom and Keith shows his reservation and basically they're fucked. They've compared notes and they have the exact same contact information in case of an emergency. And like I said, Tess tried calling, so there's no use of him trying to call. They're just kind of in a pickle for the night. Keith and Tess seem unsure of what to do. Tess starts to leave and she says that she's just gonna find a hotel and that she'll just go to her car, find a hotel and figure it out from there. And Keith is encouraging Tess to stay at least until she is able to book a hotel for the night. Keith is being strange, okay? He's acting really nervous and is all of a sudden being oddly accommodating. He's offering to make her tea. And I feel like I'm not giving the scene any justice because these all sound like very nice things. It's not what he's doing, it's how he's doing it that makes me feel like something isn't right here. And so at this point, I'm like, either he's overcompensating for him having an attitude earlier or he's up to something. Tess is struggling to find a hotel and Keith all of a sudden remembers that there's a medical convention in town, so all the hotels are booked. And so Keith tells Tess that she should just stay there, offers her the bedroom and says that he can sleep in the living room. He goes out into the rain to get her luggage and he's saying shit like, I'll never sleep on a bed while a young lady is sleeping on the couch. And I was like, okay, cool, which I feel like would have been cool, but it was like how he was saying it was like, I don't know, okay? I wonder if the vibes would feel different if Keith was actually Coleman Domingo playing himself. I imagine he would answer the door with a satin robe and be like, hey girl, everything okay? But no, instead we get fucking Pennywise. So Tess agrees to stay at the Airbnb with Keith, but before bed, she wanted to wash the sheets. So while the sheets are being washed, Tess goes into the bedroom and she's getting settled in and she sees that Keith has left his wallet in the bedroom. So she's looking at his ID. We find out he's a Taurus and he's 5'10", which if you know the actor and you know this actor's family, these motherfuckers are 6 foot up. You know, but I was like, okay, cool. We're adding to the plot. We're adding to the character that is Keith. So Tess takes a picture of his ID, which is good thinking. That's really smart. Anytime I'm hanging out with somebody new, all the information I know about that person is getting sent to somebody. There was one time I was visiting a man's house for the first time. I sent all the information I knew about him to my homegirl, and I took it a step further, and I put a shiv in my bra. It was a surprise for both of us. When he tried to cop a field, I forgot it was there. He got stabbed. So Tess gives Keith his wallet back and takes a shower. When she gets out, Keith is sitting at the kitchen table menacingly, which could be dramatic. It could be dramatic. Let me pull it back. He's sitting at the kitchen table and he has a bottle of wine that was left by the property management. And he's basically telling Tess that it's going to be a while before her laundry is ready. So he was hoping that they could sit down and have a glass of wine. Keith is like, yeah, I noticed you didn't drink the tea I made you. So I wanted to wait for you to get out the shower so you could see me open the wine bottle. Keith is basically acknowledging that the situation is really weird and understands that it might be uncomfortable for her. And I have mixed feelings about this approach. I think it's great that Keith is self-aware and realizes that Tess may be uncomfortable with the situation, but I don't know how comfortable I am with him just openly addressing it the way that he is. Like, for example, with the wine, he didn't have to say anything. He could have like kept that in mind and just opened it in front of her. Because if it were me and I was concerned that the person that I was bunking with thought I was gonna do some crazy ass shit, I just wouldn't do some crazy ass shit. Tess declines the wine, but ends up sitting down with Keith and they end up getting into some small talk. And we find out that the following day, Tess will be interviewing for a research position. She explains to Keith that she's going to be interviewing with a documentary filmmaker. He's asking her what other films the director has made. And Tess mentions a jazz documentary, Blue Easy. And Tess is shocked when she finds out that Keith has seen the documentary. I guess it's like one of those niche things where it's like, oh, nobody really knows about this, but he does. Tess goes on to explain that the current documentary that the filmmaker is creating is about Detroit and its creative communities. And Keith is like, oh, you should interview me for that. I'm one of the founders of the Lion Tamers, whatever the fuck that is. What we gather from Tess and Keith's conversation, the Lion Tamers own like properties and a bunch of houses and they're a collective and they do creative shit. And Tess immediately knows who the Lion Tamers are and she's like thrilled, she's impressed. And they're vibing now. They're drinking wine. They move to the couch. They're sitting more intimately. They're having a kiki. They're having good conversation. And this easily could have been a rom-com. So Tess's sheets are ready and Keith helps her set her duvet in the most horrifying way possible. Tess is completely into it and they're laughing, they're having a good time, they say their good nights, and later on in the night, Tess is sleeping when she hears her door creaking open. And from the bed, Tess can see Keith laying on the couch and he's like kind of stirring in his sleep, he's whimpering a bit. Tess gets up and Keith is like full on yelling now. The basement door behind her closes. She doesn't see this, but we do. So we know there's some other shit going on here in this house. Tess is standing over Keith. Keith wakes up and is frustrated or upset because Tess scared him. Keith gets even more frustrated when Tess asks if he opened her bedroom door. And I just feel like there wasn't enough conversation happening here. Let's say we live together. It's just us two. It's just us two in this bitch, okay? You come to me and you say, Malli, did you eat the last of the manicotti? And I say, no, I didn't eat the last of the manicotti. And I can infer that you didn't eat the last of the manicotti. Otherwise, you wouldn't be asking me about the manicotti. And I feel like we would want to investigate further on that. I guess with doors, it can be tricky because, you know, my bedroom door, for example, if I don't hear that click, if I don't hear that latch, it could just, you know, a gust of wind, a gust of air conditioner air can push that bitch open and it could freak somebody out, you know? So Tess is embarrassed and she goes back into her bedroom. She locks the door thoroughly, like she does a little jiggle, a little tug. That's a good way to tell too. If your door is going to be opened by the AC in the middle of the night, you can just give it a little tug and it's like, okay, next time this bitch opens, I know for a fact it wasn't the AC. So she locks the door thoroughly. She goes to sleep and she wakes up. It seems that she's overslept because she's rushing and she gets ready for her interview and sees that Keith has left her a cute little note. Keith basically is telling her to leave the key in the lockbox and that he'll see her that night. And she blushes at the little bit where he says, P.S. I had fun last night. And I was like, all right, girl, you like it. I love it. Tess steps outside the house and the neighborhood looks fucking crazy. Tess goes to the interview spot, which appears to be like a little coffee shop. And as she's waiting for the interviewer, to who we come to know as Catherine, she's looking at the picture she took of Keith's ID and she's like smiling at it. And I was like, okay, our girl has a little crush. Tess meets with the interviewer, Catherine. It seems that the interview has gone really well. Catherine is excited to work with her. They're both excited. And they're making small talk towards the end of the interview. And Catherine asks Tess where she's staying. Tess says that she's staying in Brightmoor. Now, I looked up Brightmoor and it appears to be a real neighborhood in Detroit. If there's any Detroitians that can confirm that Brightmoor is worth an alarming response, please let me know. Because when Tess tells Catherine that she's staying in Brightmoor, Catherine is looking at her like, oh, bitch, you don't need to be staying there. Tess kind of downplays it, and she's like, oh my gosh, it's fine. I have a roommate. I'm a strong girl. Catherine is just like, okay, whatever, you know, be safe. I'll call you tomorrow. So Tess drives back to the house, and as she's walking to the front door, there's a man chasing after her, running after her, yelling at her, telling her not to go in the house. Immediately, I'm like, girl, I think he's trying to warn you to get the fuck out of there. I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be mistaken. He could be crazy, but I think you should get the fuck out of there. Tess runs inside because that is alarming, because why are you running at me? She starts packing up her shit. She calls 911, and the operator basically tells her that there are no available units to go down there. And after that, and Catherine's warning, I would have fucking left. I would have got in my car and left. And if I was really feeling Keith, I would have left a cute little note right back and be like, hey, boo, I got the fuck out. I left. Here's my number. Call me sometime. Or at minimum, I'm gonna go to the movie. XOXO. Call me when you get home, and that is when I will be home, because I'm not staying in this motherfucker by myself. Tess goes to the restroom to take a shit, which I don't blame her. I get, you know, when you get really nervous and your stomach starts doing things. So she goes to the restroom. There's no toilet paper. So she pulls her pants up, buckles her jeans, and if I'm about to go to the restroom and I just need to quickly find some toilet paper, I'm not buttoning shit up. I'm not buckling anything up. I'm not putting my belt back on. I'm not buttoning anything. Like, at most, I'll do like the little shuffle that you do when you're looking for toilet paper and your pants are already at your ankles. I'm hitting that number. You know, Keith is staying there, and I guess like it wouldn't be appropriate for him to walk in and she's doing the toilet paper shuffle. Tess is searching all through the house, cannot find toilet paper. She looks down in the basement. Plenty of toilet paper. Costco amount of toilet paper. She goes down there, gets locked in. And what the fuck kind of basement locks from the inside of the basement? I don't know. Tess is sitting there, and she remembers that she left her phone upstairs. She also has the key with her, and it's not in the lockbox for Keith to be able to come in and get her out. So she's fucked. And honestly, if I was her, it would have been a here's Johnny situation, here's Malli situation. I would have broke through that bitch. Because my thing is, like, if she was there by herself and she doesn't have her phone with her, how else was she supposed to get out? Keith is there, so eventually she'll get out, but she was supposed to be there by herself. I just wouldn't put that on me, you know? I would tell the property management people, I'd be like, I got locked in the fucking basement, so I had to do what I had to do. Y'all need to get your faulty locks figured out. So Tess is sitting in the basement, and she discovers a hidden door that leads to a hidden passage. At first, Tess wants nothing to do with it, but she sits there long enough, I guess she gets bored, and she makes a little makeshift flashlight with a mirror and sees that there's a hallway. She goes down and finds a room, and it is a sus-ass room. There's a bloody handprint, there is a camera facing the bed, there's a bucket. It's not giving good vibes at all, because why would you need a room like that hidden? So Tess sees this, freaks the fuck out. She runs back into the main part of the basement and sees that Keith is upstairs trying to get in, and he sees her in the basement. Tess is crying, and he's like, ha ha ha, what the fuck are you doing in there? And I'm like, ain't shit funny, bro. Get me the fuck out of here. He pushes the window, she pulls the window. Like, they both have to work together to open it. Otherwise, if she could open it by herself, she would have been able to get out. Keith gets the key, comes in through the house, and lets Tess out of the basement. And Tess is like freaking out. She's crying, and she's like, we need to get the fuck out of here. And Keith's dumbass is like, no, well, let me go see. Like, what did you see? And Tess explains everything that she saw, and Keith is just not registering it at all. Not even a little bit. Keith is like, well, let me go check it out. Let me go look and see. Tess is begging him, do not go down there. Can we please just leave? And he's like, well, no, I'm just gonna go look and see. And she says, fine, you go check that shit out. I'm leaving. This motherfucker is like blocking her from leaving. And he's like, you're just not making any sense. He was like, you know, basements are full of junk. And you're just sitting here telling me that you've seen a bed and a bucket. And I'm like, bro, the way that he's downplaying this right now, I would have been fuming. Keith apologizes to Tess, and he's like, no, just understand, like, I don't want to up and leave, and I haven't seen it for myself. Like, I just want to see what you're talking about. He asks Tess to wait upstairs while he goes and checks it out so he doesn't get locked in the basement. I would have been waiting in my car. So Sherlock Holmes went downstairs to go fucking investigate. Keith is taking forever. Tess is calling out to Keith, and she's like, do you see the room? He says yes. Goes silent after that. Tess props the basement door open with a chair and goes down, sees that the room is completely fucking empty. And right here, right now, she should have left. I'm surprised she even went down there to begin with, because I'm not completely convinced at this point that Keith doesn't have anything to do with what's going on, because he seemed way too chill about Tess's reaction to what was in the basement, and now he's fucking vanished. If I were her, the kindest gesture that I could have done was leave the chair to have the door propped open and left. So Tess sees that the passage goes further down, I mean to the pits of hell, just so many stairs. And from deep underground, she can hear Keith yelling her name, calling her by name, asking for help. And I'm like, help, bitch, I tried to help you when I told your ass not to go down there. damn. Clearly, Tess is invested. We know that she has a little crush on Keith, and she goes down there. And it's like, even if I had a crush on dude and I felt like, wow, that could be the love of my life, and we have a bunch of niche things in common, that would have given me the ick. Him not listening, because I'm like, bro, how are you not going to listen to my concerns? How are you going to minimize my concern? I told you not to go fucking down there. You went down there, and now you're calling me for help. It's crazy. And let's say it was my man, and maybe he's a little stupid, okay? But I love him with all my heart. I'm still not gonna go down there by myself. Going down there by myself unarmed would have been my Papa Roach last resort. There's no way that would have happened. Like, babes, go run back upstairs, get a kitchen knife or something. So Tess goes down all these fucking stairs, and she's further into the dungeon, and she sees that there's cages there. It's just not a good vibe. And then Keith suddenly starts crawling to her. And when I tell you, I would have grabbed him by his ear and dragged him back up them stairs. His ear would have been so red. Keith is trying to tell Tess that somebody is down there. And Tess is like, no, why did you come down here? We would have got answers later. I was like, now is not the time for questions. You'll need to get the fuck up out of there. And so Keith tells Tess, there's somebody down here and they bit me. And I'm like, holy shit, vampires, zombies, what is going on? Why is he getting bit? So Tess is like, okay, let's get the fuck out of here. And Keith is like, no, we can't. And starts pulling her in the opposite direction of the exit. The way I would have decked his ass. I would have headbutted him. I would have lost my shit. How are you, one, not gonna listen to me when I tell you not to go fucking down to the basement? And then two, get trapped. And then call me for help specifically. And then three, make it difficult for me to rescue you. Accept the fucking rescue. Why are you arguing with me right now? You need to listen to me. We've learned this. And then there's a woman, butterball ass naked, comes up from behind Keith and kills him. We're gonna call this woman Tammy. Her character is technically Mother, but I like Tammy. So Tammy is tall as fuck, brolic as fuck, strong as fuck, and there's a lot going on. She looks otherworldly. She looks like there's something else cooking in her kitchen. Tammy screeches at Tess, which ought to be like, lower your fucking voice. I didn't ask to be here, and now you're yelling at me, and I really don't like that. And then we are abruptly introduced to a new storyline and a new character, AJ. So AJ is an actor, and when we meet him, he is having a phone call with, I can only assume to be his team. You know how rich and famous people have teams and shit of people that do shit? Various things. AJ's team is informing him that his new co-star, Megan Maddox, has made an accusation against AJ, saying that he was sexually aggressive with her during the pilot of their new show. And AJ's response is a bit alarming because he doesn't seem at all concerned with the accusations, but he's more concerned about the production of the show, if the show will continue, if he's still employed. And when he finds out that it's very likely that he'll be fired, AJ is like pissed off. And AJ finds out that the incident is going to be covered by the Hollywood Reporter that following day. So AJ is upset and he's like, well, what is she saying about me? Is she saying that I her? And they're like, yeah, that's exactly what she's saying. AJ doesn't deny the allegations, he just seems shocked. At some point, AJ visits with his accountant and they're trying to figure out his finances because he's no longer employed, he no longer has money coming in. His accountant is basically trying to figure out where they could save expenses. And we find out that the lawsuits, plural, there's going to be a lawsuit for defense and a counter lawsuit for defamation, because now I guess he's denying the allegations. With those costs, he's going to be wiped out in a matter of months. So AJ is discussing with his accountant how he can maybe sell some properties, one of the properties being in Detroit, Michigan. We know a property in Detroit, Michigan, don't we? One in Brightmoor, in fact. AJ's accountant quits, and we see that his accountant has like pictures of his daughters and stuff around, and I'm wondering if he's like, you're a piece of shit and I don't want to work for you. So AJ goes to Detroit and he's getting in his rental car when he's talking to Robert, his lawyer, about the accusations. And we find out there's been an article regarding the allegations against AJ. AJ is telling his lawyer that he wants to call Megan, and he's like, I could just probably, get this thing taken care of if I could just talk to her. AJ's lawyer is advising against calling Megan. He's upset that AJ has left the state. And AJ is explaining that he's there to sell one of his properties, so he's able to afford his lawyer's services. AJ pulls up to 476 Barbary, the house where all this shit has gone down, where we have met Tammy, where we have met Tess, and where we have met Keith. R.I.P. Keith.
Miss you. I miss your smile.
So AJ sees Tess's car. He goes in the house and sees that it's very clearly been lived in. AJ calls the property management company to figure out what's going on, if there's people currently staying in the house. And we get kind of a timeline here. And the woman, Donna, over the phone confirms that the last guest that checked in weeks ago. So it's been weeks since we lost Keith and since we've seen Tess. And Donna is no help over the phone. She's explaining to AJ that they only send a maid service anytime that there's a new booking. So because there's no new booking, nobody has been to the house. So AJ is out at a bar with one of his friends, and his friend is asking him about the allegations. And questioning AJ seems like a good step in the right direction from his friend's perspective. He's not just like, oh, these are impossible allegations. My friend would never do some shit like that. Like, he's asking him, what the fuck? And as AJ is explaining the night in question, he definitely did that shit. And he goes from saying, oh, we hooked up, to, oh, well, I had to do some convincing, to, well, yeah, she said no and for me to stop, but I said, but what? I was like, you did that shit. His friend's reaction was disappointing, but not surprising. He doesn't really say much. He's just kind of like, okay. And that was the end of their conversation, or at least that's the end of the conversation that we see. So AJ gets back to the house. He's very clearly drunk and decides to call Megan Maddox. Of course, he gets sent a voicemail and he's apologizing. And it has got to be the worst fucking apology I've ever had the opportunity to witness. He's saying shit like, if I did anything to offend you, we could have different versions of the same thing. And then he says, I'm not even mad at you. What? AJ ends the message by encouraging Megan to call him so he can have an opportunity to apologize again. And this apology is some fucking bullshit. It's already bad enough that AJ minimized his actions with his lawyer, with his friend, with his mother, but to call your fucking victim and do that shit, audacity isn't a strong enough word. The next day, AJ is going through Tess and Keith's belongings, trying to figure out who they are, where they're at, and then he hears a thud coming from the basement. So AJ gets some clothes on, he gets a kitchen knife, and he goes down into the basement. He sees the makeshift flashlight that Tess had made. He finds the hidden door and the hidden passage. He goes into the room and sees the same setup that Tess seen. You would think that he would be alarmed. He's not. He's literally trying to figure out how to include the additional square footage from the room into the house's notes for when he resells it. Like, he completely forgot the whole reason of him going down there was because he thought that there was an intruder down there. And now you see a whole spare room and your thought is, okay, let me figure out how I can get more money from this. Crazy. AJ is using a tape measure to measure the room. He finds the stairs. He's measuring that. He passes the same cages that Tess seen, and he's like, pauses for a moment. It's like, what the fuck? And then continues to measure around them. So he's going further and further into the dungeon with little to no fucking question. And I'm like, when do bells start ringing off in your head? When do you say, this isn't fucking normal? No survival skills here. And if I were selling the house, I would have that hidden door bricked the fuck up. Because how the fuck is this creepy ass basement, this creepy ass room, and this creepy ass dungeon a selling point for a house? So then AJ comes across this room. It's creepy as fuck. There's blankets everywhere, and there's a VHS playing, and it's like a nursing tutorial. Suddenly, the measuring tape is pulled from AJ's hands, and he runs further into the tunnel. There's literally hallways in this bitch. He makes a turn, and we see that he is getting run down by Tammy. AJ falls into a hole, and yo, Tess is still alive. So Tess is bandaging AJ up, and she's telling him, hey, you need to remain calm, because if you freak out, Tam upstairs is gonna freak out, and it's gonna be bad news for everybody. AJ is not hearing any of it, and I get being in shock, but holy shit, he's annoying the fuck out of me. He's like, I don't want to be here, and Tess is like, bitch, the fuck, you think I want to fucking be here? Like, just listen to me. But he doesn't, of course. The hole that they're in has like a little cage, like a little door, a cage door. Tammy reaches her long ass fucking arm down the hole, and she has a baby bottle, but it's like a big ass baby bottle. So Tess, the good baby that she is, goes and suckles on the bottle, and it looks gross. It looks real fucking gross. Tess is strong. Tess may not have survival skills in terms of avoiding getting into fucked up situations, but best believe when Tess is in a fucked up situation, she's gonna survive. Tammy puts the bottle towards AJ, and Tess is telling AJ, she's like, drink it, like, just drink it. And he's like, no, what the fuck? So Tammy jumps in, which they should have put, Tammy should have been in some sports. Tammy should have been in the WNBA, maybe just the NBA. She looked like she could really dunk on somebody. Gotta get courtside to see Tammy on the court, okay? Tammy jumps in, she goes and she like coddles Tess a little bit. Tammy drags AJ out of the hole and drags him into the nursing room where the nursing tutorial is playing. And so Tammy is following the instructions very thoroughly. She like boops his little nose, and then forcefully nurses him. So Tess uses this opportunity to escape, and as she's walking past the nursing room, she steps on the tape measure and it makes a noise. Tammy is now aware. Tess has to run out of there. She ends up breaking the basement window, and the man from before, which we come to know him as Andre, the one that was yelling at her, telling her to get out of the fucking house, helps her, drags her out. And when I tell you, Tammy misses her by a second. And we see Tammy is just standing in the window, and she just kind of walks away when she sees that Tess has escaped. Honestly, from Tammy's perspective, I kind of feel bad for her. She's just a single mom who works 2 jobs, loves her kids, and never stops, okay? She has one kid who isn't latching. She can't feed her fucking baby AJ. She has another baby, Tess, who has escaped. She's run off. So Tess is outside with Andre, and Andre telling her, like, wow, I can't believe you survived. You know, you need to fucking leave. And Tess is adamant on saving AJ. And Andre seems to know a lot about Tammy and tells Tess that come nightfall, Tammy is gonna come out that fucking house and start looking for her. So whatever she does not need to be in that area by nightfall. And then very cryptically, Andre is like, she's not even the worst thing in that house. I said, there's more? So Tess is walking for we don't know how long, but she ends up at a gas station where she asks the gas station employee to call the police. The police arrive and are literally no fucking help, like at the fuck all. It's so bad, actually. They think that Tess is homeless and under the influence, even though Tess is very clearly explaining that she was being held prisoner and that there's somebody else, AJ, trapped in the house. Tess somehow is able to manage to get the police officers to the house, and she is like at the door trying to break the door down, and she's like, okay, well, you gotta break this door down, you gotta get in here, and you have to save this man. The police officer tells Tess, he's like, no, you don't have keys to this house, you don't live here. Only crime that I see here is the window that you broke. Mind you, the window that Tess broke to escape, meaning if he had any sort of background, any sort of fucking common sense, if he's watched all the seasons of Monk, as I have, bitch, you'd see that the glass is on the outside of the fucking house. Meaning, if Tess broke the glass from outside of the house, the glass would be inside the house. But she literally fucking escaped. Therefore, the glass is out on the grass. You idiot. Fuck. Tess, of course, is very upset, very disgruntled, and the police officer is about to leave, and he's like, you're lucky I don't take you to jail to sleep this off. Like, he literally thinks that she's like on drugs or something. Like, this is insane. That would have drove me fucking insane. But also, if I was Tess, I would have been like, I've done everything that I could do. So whenever Tammy ran after Tess, AJ used that opportunity to leave the little nursing tutorial room. AJ is wandering through the tunnel and he sees that there is a room. And so he gets to this room and he sees that Tammy is right there. But for some reason, Tammy doesn't take a step further because she seems to be afraid of whatever is on the other side of the door. And Tammy just walks away. AJ goes inside the room and sees that there's an old ass man there. We'll come to know this old ass man as Frank. So a little backstory on Frank in the house. We see the neighborhood in, like, I can only assume to be the 1980s. It appears to be a lovely neighborhood. We meet a younger Frank and he's driving through the neighborhood. He goes to a grocery store and he's buying supplies for a home birth. From the grocery store parking lot, he sees a woman, stalks her all the way to her home, disguises himself as a water and sewage employee with the city, goes inside the woman's bathroom, and unlocks the window, I can only assume to gain access later on. So in the flashback, we see that Frank has pulled back up to the house. And mind you, it's the same house, 476 Barbary, okay? He sees his neighbor, and his neighbor is saying that he's going to be moving because the neighborhood is going to shit. And we can see that's very accurate years later. Either his neighbor doesn't see it or chooses to ignore it, but Frank is wearing a jumpsuit with the name Carlos on it, which is not his fucking name. Frank's neighbor is asking if he plans on moving. He says, no, I'm not going anywhere. And we can see that he has not gone anywhere all those years because he's been living underground. And when Frank goes inside the house, he opens the basement door and you can hear a woman screaming on the other side. Cut back to AJ and Frank. AJ is assuring Frank that he's going to get out of there and get help, and he's going to have cops swarming the place. When Frank hears this, he gestures towards a nightstand. AJ's not sure what he wants, so he brings the nightstand closer to the bed so he can access whatever the fuck he needs. AJ is looking around and he sees that there's a collection of VHS tapes, and he sees that some of them have women's name on them, some of them have descriptions. It's unclear of what the tapes contain, and there's a tape already in the VHS. AJ watches the tape. We don't see what's on there, but we hear a woman screaming. And AJ is appalled by whatever he has seen on this tape. And he's looking to Frank and he's like yelling at him. He's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I'm like, damn, I guess there's levels to this predator shit. Frank pulls out a gun and shoots himself. I can only assume Frank was doing some fucked up shit in the basement. And when he heard that AJ was gonna have a cops swarming the place. He was like, my story ends here. So AJ takes the gun and he leaves. The sun is setting. Tess breaks back into the house. She gets her car keys. She starts her car, and as she's backing out away from the house, out runs Tammy. Tess hits Tammy with her car, and now Tammy is stuck in between the house and Tess's car. Tammy is down for the count, and so is Tess's car, which honestly, I would have just drove off if I were her. I'm not sure of Tammy's athletic capabilities. You know, we know she fast as fuck and strong as fuck. Could she run down a car? Could she chase a car? Tess goes back inside to save AJ and immediately gets shot. AJ shoots Tess. By accident, yes, but still, what a fucking, what a situation. So AJ helps Tess, and she's like limping. Health points are down. She's struggling really bad. And they see that Tammy is no longer outside. And they're booking it on foot because AJ's keys are in the basement, and he's like, I'm not going back down there. Tess remembers that Andre said that he lived in the water tower, or near the water tower. And so she's like, I know where we can seek refuge. Let's go. They walk to the water tower. Andre's there. He welcomes them in. Andre is basically explaining Tammy and Frank's backstory. AJ's asking Andre what Tammy is, and Andre says that she's just a crazy lady that lives in that house. Andre explains that Tammy has lived there for 40 years along with her father, Frank. And Frank was taking women down there and, quote, making babies with them, and then making babies with those babies. And that is what Tammy is the product of. So it seems that AJ is starting to feel guilty. He's reflecting on his past actions, and he's saying that he hurt someone. And I think that he's referring to both Tess and Megan. AJ is reflecting, and he's like, I don't know if I'm a bad person or if I'm a good person who did a bad thing. He's wanting to give Tess help because, you know, he fucking shot her. Andre is saying the best thing for them to do is to stay and wait until morning and that they'll be safe there. Tess is like, how do you know that we'll be safe here? And just as Andre is saying that he's been there for 15 years and Tammy has never come by, Tammy literally breaks through the fucking wall like the Kool-Aid man. Yeah! Rips Andre's arm off and starts beating him with it. AJ starts running up the water tower. Tess is behind him, but obviously she's struggling. She's telling him to wait for her. AJ is like, I can't, come on. And it's like, I'm sure she would be able to keep up if you didn't fucking shoot her. And my thing is, if somebody risked their life to come back and save my ass and I accidentally shoot them, they're my Madame Zeroni for the night. I'm carrying them up. I'm doing something. I'm figuring something out to where this person can live. And I feel like it's so much easier to risk your life for somebody that you know would risk their life for you. Because Tess literally could have left his ass there, but she was adamant on saving him. And it makes me wish she knew about his background before trying to save his ass, but that's neither here nor there. So Tammy is not far behind. We know Tammy fast as fuck, okay? Tess and AJ make it to the top of the water tower, and Tess reminds AJ, like, you have a gun, use your gun. AJ pulls the gun out and fucking drops it. Tammy makes it to the top of the water tower. AJ is telling Tess, like, I can escape, but I need you to slow her down. Grabs Tess by her hair and then just pushes her right over the fucking water tower. Any conversation or any confusion that AJ had about him being a good person or not being a good person, bitch, you're a bad person. Point blank bottom line, and you just proved it again. Tammy, without hesitation, without a second thought, jumps over the water tower, titties swinging in the air, and cushions Tess's fall. AJ goes downstairs, he grabs a gun and sees that Tess is still alive. And here AJ goes with his bullshit apologies. The way that he apologizes and still manages to take no accountability is like, that is a talent. That is something fucking else. Because he's like, I'm so sorry. And he was like, you slipped, I didn't let go. When he literally grabbed her and pulled, what do you mean she slipped? What? What do you mean you didn't let go? It wasn't like she was dangling from the edge and you were trying to hold her up. You put her from point A to point B, huh? So AJ is helping Tess up and has the fucking audacity to say, look, I'm saving you. So Tammy shoots back up and she grabs AJ and kills him. Tammy sees that Tess is hurt and she's trying to pick her up to take her back to the house. But Tess is like, I can't go back, which obviously, like, why would she want to go back? Tess grabs the gun and puts it to Tammy's face. And Tammy, being a few chips short of a cookie, doesn't even understand what's going on. And Tess is holding the gun to Tammy's face. And Tammy, like, kisses her fingers and then puts it to Tess's forehead. And I just know Tammy was shook because she was like, this nursery video didn't mention any of this shit. So Tess ends up shooting Tammy and she walks off as the sun rises. A survivor. Didn't make the best decisions, but damn it, she made it out. And that's all we can ask of Tess. For Tammy to be like the monster of the film and for her to still have more humanity than AJ is crazy as fuck. And like, granted, Tammy did hold them hostage and she did kill a couple of people, but her overall intentions was selfless. You know, she was doing the one thing that she thought that she was supposed to be doing, taking care of them babies. She thought she was being a good mom. And you know, mentally and physically she had something else going on, okay? But to her ability, to her whatever the fuck she had going on, she thought she was doing good. And I don't know if this is intentional or not, but it was just an observation. I couldn't help but notice how every single man in the film failed Tess. You have Keith, who didn't listen to Tess when she told him not to go down there, and then he ended up getting her caught up because she went to go save his ass, which was her choice, but, you know, she was trying to do the right thing. You have the police officers who also didn't listen to Tess and wrote her off as being hysterical. And then you have fucking AJ. A fucking J. And him accidentally shooting her is one thing, but him throwing her over the water tower is like actually sinister. And like I said, I almost wish she was aware of the situation that he was in before, because I feel going to the extent of calling the police to get him out, like, I feel like that was more than enough. Like, you've done everything you could. Like, in that case, she didn't fail him, but the police did, and she's done everything that she could. As being Captain Save-A-Ho only got her caught up in some fucked up situations. And my thing is, I feel like there's a lack of survival skills there. Granted, she had survival skills because she, you know, she was in the situation and survived, but I feel like she shouldn't have been in that situation to begin with, especially when it came down to saving Keith, because literally up until Tammy killed him, I wasn't sure which side that he was playing for. And that sounds like I'm referring to his sexuality. I didn't know what his motive was. Whenever he was calling for help for Tess, when he was down in the basement, I'm like, is she being lured down there? Like, is there some other bullshit going on? And granted, you know, we do find out that that wasn't the case at all, but that's something that would have crossed my mind and would have prevented me from going down to the basement, period. I would have loved to have seen the movie as well from Keith's perspective, paired with Tess's perspective as well. Just because I feel like it would have been fun and it would have like cleared things up. Granted, we met Tess 2 minutes before we met Keith, but that 2 minutes made all the difference. Immediately I was in her defense and on her side because I'm like, you know, she's there for an interview. We know this girl, we don't know you. So I think it would have been cool to at some point see his perspective of him getting to the house, him getting settled in, and seeing points where him and Tess weren't in the same room. Just because, I don't know, I think it would have been fun to see. And the way that this could have easily been a rom-com, which I would have loved for the trailer of the movie to be like completely like just like false advertisement entirely. And there are trailers of Barbarian where it starts off and it seems like it's this little rom-com moment where two people have accidentally been booked in the same Airbnb and they're vibing and they're getting along. There is a trailer like that exists, but by the end of the trailer you quickly find out that there's some other shit going on in the house. I someday would want somebody to create a movie trailer that seems like it's one thing, but it's something else completely different. Like, I mean a completely different fucking genre. I do feel like that's something that would be difficult to pull off, and I do feel like that would be like legitimately false advertisement, because imagine thinking you're gonna go see a fucking rom-com and then it's actually the complete opposite of that. The love interest dies immediately. One thing that I'll say that I really enjoy about Barbarian, I like whenever movies and like there's movie trailers that insinuate that there's something paranormal going on, or there's room for that to be a potential, and then that's not what it is at all. It's something not paranormal. I feel like in that instance you have to get creative with making a movie that is categorized as horror scary, because I feel like it's so easy to be like, paranormal shit, bitch. For them to be able to have this twisted ass, dark ass fucking turn for the movie, it wasn't enjoyable because what the fuck, but it was refreshing in terms of it being something completely like not at all what I was thinking. For me, it's like anytime I see a movie trailer and anytime, even like while I'm actively watching the movie, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. What's the tea? And so for Barbarian, it was so far miles away that I would have never guessed what the fuck was going on, that was kind of enjoyable. But yes, that's all that I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. And I hope that your house doesn't have a basement that leads to a dungeon. Okay? I hope that isn't the case for you. Okay, bye!